This is part 2 of a witch hunt essay review process. In part 1, we looked at the introductions and said that we needed to make sure that the definition about bad process and bad logic and bad evidence and can't defend yourself would show up in the introduction. Ideally, a blame deflection definition should show up as well, and this one could have a little bit more depth, but at least introduces the idea. Then we went on to talk about Salem and the importance then of using details that show the bad process, that give examples of bad process, not just say there was a bad process, but instead to offer that spectral evidence was allowed, which was a bad evidence, quality of evidence. Then we moved on to McCarthy, and again, the same thing was to show that in fact there was the kinds of things that were bad process. So the discussion of the list that was never shown, or the questioning process in which you couldn't defend yourself would be important. To say that he was paranoid about spies, or he didn't like communists, those are true, but they don't really add clarity to their understanding of witch trial and why we call that a witch hunt based on our definition. So we talked about matching up the details from the case to the definition that we've given. So let's move on to the blame deflection style witch hunt. And if you need some help with the definition for that, remember it's to try to evoke, to bring out the witch hunt qualities of bad process and deposit them on your accuser so that they look bad, not you. Okay, so here's the first one about gas station guy. Some of the details are wrong about the amount of money differences in the price that he bought and sold the gas, but the idea is the same. There is a different way people use the phrase witch hunt in today's society. Since it's looked at poorly, it's a great excuse to use for blame deflection. A little lack of clarity about what the it's you're referring to, but fair enough. People try to redirect the accusation on the accuser. Fair enough summary. At a small town called New Bern, a gas station owner, Brian Fisher, was accused of gas price gouging. Once he heard of this accusation, he stated that it was a witch hunt. Brian declared, probably better, Fisher declared that he was losing 13 cents from buying the guys, then selling, making no profit. Then the accusers asked to see a receipt of the purchase, but he refused to and denied an on-camera interview. Asking for the receipt showed that it wasn't a true witch hunt like Fisher stated. It represented the opposite of bad process, which is due process. It proves that Fisher was trying to center the focus on the accuser. So this is the section that begins to get at revealing how this is the blame deflection witch hunt. It's fair enough. I could go a little further. I think it could be written a little bit more clearly, but it's fair enough. It would be nice to say being offered the chance to give evidence is good process, not bad process. Being offered the chance, that's because that's offering the person a chance to defend himself, whereas in a bad process, he can't. So to name and then refute the specific instances of witch hunt bad process would be really helpful. Okay, so the accusation, the assertion that it wasn't bad process, it was due process is a good one. It'd be nice to name those ways. Okay, it's not bad process. He was offered a chance to give evidence. That's due process. It wasn't a bad process. He could defend himself by giving the evidence. He would have defended himself. That's not bad process. That's due process. So the next level of clarity would be the specific detail. Another one of these. Another example of a witch hunt is when someone says they are being witch hunted when they are really not being. A gas station guy picks up his prices. People think he's trying to make more money and making gas more expensive. The guy says that he had to because the place he gets gas from raised up their prices. So if he didn't, he wouldn't make a profit at all. Fair enough summary. The language could be a little tighter, I think, but a fair enough summary. When they asked to see the evidence to prove that prices did go up, but he refused to show them, that probably take out the when and just make it they asked to, but he refused. Doesn't that make him look guilty if he refuses to show them evidence? Probably so, and that's the point. But a couple things here. I want to be careful of rhetorical questions because you're not in control of the answer, really. It would be cleaner and easier to say refusing to show evidence that would prove his innocence causes people to make him to think that he's guilty. This does not reflect bad process. It reflects good process. It reflects the chance to defend himself by offering evidence. So again, to name the specific instances, the specific ways in which good process or due process and not bad process is what's going on would be nice. A rhetorical question that way leans us in that direction, but it doesn't. We don't want our reader to have any chance to misunderstand or go a different direction. We want to take them there. So assert it and then back it up rather than ask a rhetorical question. Okay, I think this one's beginning to get there, and I think it could get there a little bit more thoroughly. And then just do an arms dealer case, arms dealer guy. Also a blame deflection witch hunt, we decided. The case with the arms dealer possibly using the guns to kill American citizens, I think, is not a witch hunt, as Victor Bout claims. You are an arms dealer who is wanted around the world, a view which is also shared by the United Nations. A former British minister also called you the merchant of death. There was an Interpol warrant for your arrest. You were accused, among other things, of delivering arms to warring factions in Afghanistan, Congo, Angola, and Liberia. This shows tons of people believe he shouldn't be dealing with guns and should be in jail. I think this is leaning toward the explanation fairly well, but doesn't get the depth of detail that would be really convincing, because saying a bunch of people believe he shouldn't be doing this isn't proof that he's not being witch hunted. And again, it would be nice. We got nearby when there was an Interpol warrant for your arrest. It would be to say that's a regular procedure, right? Issuing arrest warrants for police agencies to execute is a regular procedure that is part of due process. It's not a witch hunt. It's based on there being enough evidence to generate a warrant, and that indicates procedure, not witch hunt. So I think some of the pieces are here. They need to be clarified a little bit more depth. And the sentences about what he's accused of also don't really add much to making this clear that it's not a witch hunt, because he could be accused of things wrongly. But to say accused by legitimate courts who have seen evidence and issued warrants is to say due process, not witch hunt. So that's what we want to try to get to. Okay, so we've reviewed the introduction and the definition process, and we reviewed Salem, McCarthy, and then a couple of blame deflection examples. You want your essay to define clearly what the two category types are. Witch hunts are bad process with bad logic, bad evidence, and you can't defend yourself. And then give details from the cases, Salem and McCarthy, that show bad process, bad evidence, bad logic happening, right? Then you also want to have defined blame deflection or accusation redirection witch hunts, probably in quote marks, that they are in fact a real process with a real allegation of wrongdoing, and that the accused is trying to deflect attention away from him or herself by saying that people accusing him or her are witch hunters, making them look bad. And then give gas station guy or arms dealer guy the explanation with detail of how it wasn't witch hunt, it was due process. So the job's a little bit different. It's to tell a story of what really is due process. So it's to offer details that show real process in action, court cases, warrants, offers to show evidence, the opportunity to get a lawyer to defend oneself. You say, these are the details of good process. They are not details of witch hunt. And then you'd have more clarity. I hope that helps, and you go do a revision of your paper now.